Today, we're going to start a new gospel, a new book. We're going to start the Gospel of John. Before I do this, I was just thinking about the context and why John wrote his gospel. It made me think a few things that I would like to share with you this morning. First of all, do you ever wish you could go back in time and experience something again for the first time? Let's say a movie that really, really moved you. For the older ones, when Star Wars or E.T. came out, it was something. It was not just a movie. It was an experience, right?
Absolutely.
Or more recent, of course, the Lord of the Rings when they came out, or Dune movie for the fans of Dune. I'm not going to go over all the list, but there's movies like they hit us. It's like an experience seeing these movies. It changed you forever. It can be like the same with books we read or songs we hear. And we always sometimes wish to go back in time and experience the first thrill, of discovering this. And it's never exactly the same. The first time is always something magical, something that is hard to describe. A lot of movies, actually, they make a part 2, part 3, and it's not always a success, right? The reason why is because those things are finished works. They are a piece of art, and it's finished, and it's in time. There is, however, one exception to all of this. And of course, for me, is the Word of God. I'll explain to you why. John 1, verse 14. John explained this in his introduction. He's saying, "The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. We have seen his glory, the glory of the one and only Son, who came from the Father, full of grace and truth." Jesus, here, John is saying it's the Word. The Word of God that became flesh. And this is very different than other books we can read. Why? Because Jesus is alive. He was alive and still alive today. The Word became flesh. This is what we're going to do the next few weeks. The next 8 weeks at least, we're going to hear from the one and only Son of God, Jesus. And John, he had a very special relationship with him. They were best friends. He was really close to him. And it's from that perspective that John is sharing. It's a very unique gospel compared to the 3 first books in the New Testament. And we need to understand the context. The first 3 books were written, just a generation after Jesus. Like more or less 15 to 30 years after Jesus. The Gospel of John came way later, near the end of the 1st century. At that time, John was really old, and all the apostles, all the first disciples were dead. They were persecuted, killed. Jerusalem went through tremendous stress. The whole city got totally destroyed. The temple got destroyed. And we need to put ourselves in that context. The church, the Christian church, is no longer just a little movement inside Israel. It grew all over the world, all over the Roman Empire. And actually the church, a majority of people were becoming more and more Gentiles, meaning non-Jewish people. They were part of that church. So it's in that context when John was very old, and after a lot of experience, that he wrote his version of the gospel. And praise God, he didn't just write down the same story than the first 3 gospels. When you read John, you feel like it's the same man, it's the same story, but it's a total different perspective. The title of my message today is very simple, is the Word. Because that expression, this word, John is repeating this over and over in the first part of his gospel. I was just thinking about it this week. Can you imagine if John would die younger, just like the others apostles? What if John died young and never had the chance to write this book? I was thinking about it. I was like I would be grateful for the New Testament, but I would be thinking that there's something is missing. It's a real privilege. It's a real privilege we have to get to meet Jesus again for the very first time through the perspective of John. This is the way I'm tackling the Gospel of John as I'm reading this. I read this many times in my life. I read John. It's probably my favorite Gospel, but I'm trying to read it right now, just like it's the first time I'm reading it. So I would like to welcome to join me right now. We're going to read the first 4 verses of John, and let's try to put ourselves in the same context and imagine that we're reading this for the first time. You know, the first 3 Gospels, one of the classic way the evangelists had, it's to start with the genealogy, right? They bring back Jesus to his ancestor, David and Abraham, and sometimes it's through his mom, some of the time it's through his father. But with John, it's totally different. Like, he's putting the genealogy aside and he's starting this way. Verse 1. In the beginning, the Word already existed. The Word was with God, and the Word was God. He existed in the beginning with God. God created everything through Him, and nothing was created except through Him. The Word gave life to everything that was created, and His life brought light to everyone. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness can never extinguish it. God sent a man, John the Baptist, to tell about the light so that everyone might believe because of his testimony. John himself was not the light. He was simply a witness to tell about the light. The one who is the true light, who gives light to everyone, was coming into the world. He came into the very world He created, but the world didn't recognize Him. He came to His own people, and even they rejected Him. But to all who believed Him and accepted Him, He gave the right to become children of God. They are reborn not with a physical birth resulting from human passion or plan, but a birth that comes from God. So the Word became human and made His home among us. Amen. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness, and we have seen His glory, the glory of the Father's one and the only Son. As you can see and observe right away, it's a very powerful way to start his story about Jesus. And it's very different from the first 3 Gospels. So the first 3 words he's using, John, and it's my first point. I have 2 simple points today. In the beginning. So John chose carefully the first words he's going to use to begin his book. And he's using these 3 words. Does it remind you of something?
Genesis.
Of course, Genesis, right? The first book of the Bible, the story of the creation, it starts like this. In the beginning, God created heavens and earth. So he's using the first 3 words. And you may think, well, this is not very original. Like you're just starting a book the same way Genesis started. Well, it's not very original until you read the next 3 words. And we read, let's read it again. In the beginning was the Word. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was existing before everything started. You know, when we're a kid, we're wondering, before the creation, before everything happened? What was there, you know? John here is boldly saying, it's very simple. The Word was there from the beginning. John is not just quoting Genesis here. He is rewriting the creation of the world. He is re-examining our very existence. He's not saying let's throw in the garbage the book of Genesis, but he said us, now that we experienced and saw Jesus and we believe in him, we have to see everything in a different angle. It's pretty cool. It's something for sure challenging our faith. Well, let's keep and go deeper a little bit into verse 1. So these are the words that John used. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. You know, when you read this, the word with implies a separation. There's two entities, right? Two things, you know, one, A with B, so there's two entities. The Word was its own thing. That's one thing that John wants us to understand. The Word existed by itself, independently from God. It's pretty deep. Are you serious? But what is amazing and what's coming right after? Let's read it again a little bit further, the verse 1. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. You know, when you read this, it's just like, is with God or was God? So you have to pause for a moment. From the first verse, some of us can be like, wow, that's too deep for me. Like, I need to take a break. What does he mean by this? That means it's the same as God, the very, the very opposite of separate. Like what John is saying, they are both one. They are God together, despite they are two different entities. It's very deep.
Come on.
And I appreciate the way John is starting here his gospel. He's sharing a deep insight about the nature of God and Christ. And what is that deep insight? They are one. They're not separated. Again, you need to go back in the context. By the end of the first century, there's people inside the church. I'm not talking to people outside the church. Inside the church that had a hard time to see Jesus as divine, like as God. You know, for them it was not possible. It's impossible the way he was humiliated, the way he was vulnerable on the cross and all this, that he was God. Some people even pretended that he didn't exist really. You know, people experienced something, but he was a really incarnated, person in the flesh. And John is writing his gospel here to remind us about the truth, what he saw, what he experienced. I really feel when we start reading just from the beginning, John is starting something new. He's beginning with something new that is different from what existed before. I don't know for you, but I love to begin and experience new things. Spring, every year, I cannot get bored of spring. Every time when spring coming, you start to see the buds and the trees and the flowers. That's exciting. When you see the days start to get longer, I just wow, I just feel good about this. A few weeks ago, my wife had to rush to St. Lucia for a few days. There was a funeral. Her uncle passed suddenly, and Cynthia's brother as well. So my wife wanted to go. I said, yeah, sure, let's go for a few days. And while she was gone, I just had an idea. I talked to my daughter. We had a couch that we didn't need in the basement. A young families needed, so we gave it to them. And when we took out the couch, it was so bad. The basement, the last 10, 11 years, it was the kingdom for the teens, for the young adults. They had party. We never put rules. They did whatever they wanted. So when we removed that couch, there was holes in the wall. There's so much dust and old popcorn and all that kind of food. It was so bad. So I told Gabby, I said, "Hey, let's prepare a surprise for Mom. We're gonna clean the whole basement. We're gonna repaint the whole basement, and we're gonna stage it." My daughter is studying decoration and interior design, that kind of stuff. So we did that very quickly between appointments and all that. And when Jillian came back, she came down and we brought her to the basement. She was like blown away. They didn't expect this. She was like, "What? This is so amazing." Like, she was almost like in a dream. You know, like in the TV show when they walk in and it's like, "This is not my house." Like, and she was like totally shocked. It is so cool. A new beginning. There's only one problem. After you finish this, you look at the next room. The rest of the house is like, "Oh, we need to clean. We need to have help." But I love new beginning. Maybe there are changes you want to make in your life. And I'm not talking about a basement, a room. I'm talking about ourselves, our heart, right? And it's a great opportunity now, as we're starting the Gospel of John, to be in that mind frame, to be, seeking and looking for ways we can change. John 1, verse 2 and 3. Let's read again these verses. John is saying here, "He was with God in the beginning. Through him, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made." For me, when I read this, it reminds me that it's a great idea. It's a good idea to always begin with him. Whatever we want to start something, do a change. Begin with the Word. Begin with Jesus. Begin with the Son of God. What happens when we try to do things outside the Word, outside God? Usually, I know it's my experience, personal experience, it doesn't work. I fail, I hit walls. But every time you do things, you want to start something new, and you begin with Jesus, with the Word, with God, things are different. This is what John is saying and reminding people in this new era for the church. At the end of this first century, we need to be reminded that everything began with Jesus and it will continue forever. Amen. In the book of Genesis, after the first chapter, after the creation in the garden, what happened? The first temptation, right? The snake came with these words. Did God really say? And this is how he tempted humanity. And you look at where it led, not very good. This is not old stories for the kids. This is our story. We're tempted. Doesn't matter how old we are in the faith. We're going to have some thoughts, some whispering in our minds sometimes. Did really God say this? Or do I really need to? And when we start thinking like this and compromising, it's the beginning of a lot of problems. Right now, it's a new chapter in my life. I'm doing something. I'm preparing myself to do something I never did before. The kind of thing that people are encouraging you, suggesting you, and I never disagree with this, but it's like, it's not the time, later, like there's always, I'm going to start a personal therapy. And I've been advised by many people around me, especially leaders, the board of directors, to take this seriously.
Come on.
I received a reference of someone who's very serious and expert in helping minister for church. So it's really cool. So I engaged with her, and before we meet, she sent me an email of all the things I need to read and do before we meet for the first time. I was overwhelmed the first time I received that email. Seriously, there's like 10 articles, like 10 attached documents, and also a book, like I need to read the first few chapters. In these articles, it's not just reading for reading. Like there's things to assimilate, put in practice, like breathing, like journaling, also like what are the triggers in my life and these kind of things. So it takes time. I said, when you do all this, then you can reach out to me and we can set our first appointment. One thing I realized, it requires a lot of time, a lot of focus, but also a lot of introspection. And it brings you to a vulnerable place. To be honest, guys, it's scary. It's unknown. It's overwhelming. Lately, like even yesterday, there's things I was reading and preparing for the therapy, and it brings me back, like far back, and I was so emotional, like I was just crying and crying for nothing and being all moved inside, and it's just like it is scary to go there. And for me as a minister, I help, and I love to help people and encourage people. I have no problem doing this, but I think it's time for me to stop, to pause, and doing it for myself.
Amen.
And really, I didn't even have the first appointment. I already know that I need to go through this. Why? Because there's things I thought they were dealt with, they were gone, and then they're coming back. And it's just like a first layer. You know, it's going to go deeper and deeper and deeper. Why I'm sharing this? Well, it's scary. It's an unknown and overwhelming, but also it's exciting because it's transformative. It's new. It's liberating. And I think in that same way, when John wrote his gospel, he brings us in a deeper level to help us to experience this as well. In John 1, verse 12 and 13, John is saying something very powerful here. But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave the right to become children of God. They are reborn, not with physical birth resulting from human passion or plan, but a birth that comes from God. You know, when we read this, you need to be careful to see not just the initial conversion to Christ, and when we get baptized, we repent, all this, for sure. We go through that rebirth experience, and we become a child of God. This is not just a ritual. Clearly, John is talking about this is a transformative experience. It changed us to the point that he's using the word reborn. A birth from God, and you become a different person, a child from God. Also, I think what he's mentioning here, it's not just a one time, something belonged to the past. Do you remember when you did this? It's still ongoing. What he's talking is still talking about the present and the future. That's the way I was seeing it as I was rereading this week. You know, whatever changes, it needs to begin with the Word and stay and remain in the Word. That's a big theme of the Gospel of John. The question is, how can you begin what you want to begin in the Word? How can you bring God into the changes you want to make from the very start? So with the therapy I'm doing, for me, I was thinking a lot of things I'm reading on psychology and all this. This is great, but I need to bring God into all this. I didn't know how to tackle this, but God sent me an angel, somebody I just met recently, and first copy we're having, he's talking about a book, and he had that book to me. It's called The Awe of God. And it's a big book. It's good research. And he said, you should read this. And I said, well, thank you. I appreciate. I have so much things to read right now. I don't know if I can add this. And he insisted so much. He said, this is a great book. It's my favorite. I read 3 times. And I get it. I'll start reading it. And I started reading it. And I got answer from God. Like, this is the perfect book to do, and a little chapter I'm going to read every day, in parallel with the therapy I'm going to do. So this is what it means to bring God, to bring the Word in your life with whatever you want. You know, it's good to do therapy, but to bring it and do it with God. This is what I intend to do. On top of this, starting a journal, and praying a lot through this. Not just my own prayer. I ask you to pray for me.
Amen, bro.
And I will need help in the next few weeks and months. Can I have an amen on this?
Amen.
Second point, very quickly. The Word became flesh. This is not a light detail. The Word became flesh. This is a huge, huge statement. So let's pause for a moment. The word, when every time John is saying the word, it comes from an original Greek. And in the Greek, if you can show the slide, it's logos. You know, God is logos, the logos created. It's the word that is used in that passage. What does it mean, logos? In Greek philosophy, logos is super, super important. It's a very, very deep word that means universal divine reason, principle that gives meaning to the universe. John, he's taking that word, that concept, and bringing it to a deeper level and make the connection with Christ. For John, logos, what does it mean? It's the active force bringing life, light, and order to the world, bringing divine and human reality. John is reminding that all things were made by and through the Logos, right? So the Logos, what John is saying, it became flesh. It became human. What does it mean exactly? It means Jesus is the eternal God that you cannot compare to anything or anybody else, revealed in human form. And this is what I'm going to share with you with a lot of passion and detail. That's why we cannot take lightly to open our Bible and read John lightly today. It's a huge privilege. And we need to do all we can to read it as we're reading it for the first time. The words we read, 1 to 14, is not just some words. It's more like when you give someone your word. You know what I mean? When you're pledging that you have a plan to follow through with a promise. The closest to this for me in my life is the May 1st, 1999. I remember first May 1999. It's been a while, last century. When I was in front of this wonderful woman at the day of our wedding, and when we exchanged personal vows. When you prepare your personal vows with somebody that you love, you dedicated to live your life, you don't find the words with AI. You don't Google it. You don't copy from somebody else. You have to take the time. And if you would want to laugh today, I should show you the video of our wedding when we exchanged vows. But we're going to do this for another time because you will be distracted and miss the point. You know, like when we're exchanging personal vows, it's a big deal. Well, that's what he meant, John, by saying the Logos and all the first 14 verses. John 1 is nothing short but a declaration of love from God. Not just any kind of declaration, but a faithful, eternal love. God is pledging with a promise to humanity, I love you and I'll be with you till your last breath. This is what John is reminding the disciple. God's words are not just some words that you could read like a contract. Why? Because John is saying the word dwells among us. Like God could send his promise of salvation or whatever to other people. He came here in flesh. He suffered. He experienced all kind of temptation to show us that he cares. He became like us. He lived and died with us. The same pain and the same sufferings we're going through. Jesus, the Word, the Logos, went through this to show that he cares for us. And he's also expressing that it's only the beginning of a lifetime relationship. The same way when you get married with somebody you care, you love for life, What are you dedicated to after? You want to spend time together with the person you love. You want to get to know that person more. You want to be open. You want to be real. You want to be vulnerable. You want to ask questions. You want to be a good listener. You want to be there to encourage. You will endure the rough patches. That's what God is doing. This is what John is reminding us. A relationship with God, the Creator. How is it possible? The Logos, like the power that created everything, want to have a relationship with us? This is the mystery here. Just like the Word and God were two different entities. The Word with God, and right after, but the Word was God. They are one. Is the same thing for us. As children of God, we're a different nature of God. We're not the same. God is with us, but also we are with God. We are one with God. That's basically what John is saying here in his gospel. The word Logos gives another powerful insight as well. I brought my box here. There's a little logo on the box. You know what it is, right? When you receive a box with that logo, you don't need a name. You don't. It's on Amazon, right? This is the logo of Amazon. And today, you just need to look at that logo, and it brings so much. Like if you think about the founder, the website, the warehouse, the delivery system, and all that. It's a crazy thing that happened in the last decade or so. He's one or the richest man now.
Yeah.
Like this little logo, it's just a little symbol, but it's more than this. It represents so much more. Also, if I show you this, that classic shoe with the black logo. You know what it is, right? Like you sit and you know right away, you recognize that logo. I saw the movie recently, Air, and it's so cool. When they do a pitch sale to Michael Jordan, they convince that he will become somebody very important, and they present him the shoes, and one of the things in the pitch sale said, "This is just a shoe. This is nothing. It's the person who's gonna make it something, and you are that person." And same thing today when we look at the logo, like it means so much more. Well, this is the thing, the logo for these kind of companies, it's not just a cute symbol, it represents something much larger. You know the word logos that we read in John 1? It's straight from the Greek. Logo and logos is the same. It's the same root. It's the same word used for the word. So in other words, Jesus is the logos, is the logo of God. He represents something much bigger, much powerful, much more holy. And John is saying the logos became flesh, became humans. It means that when you look at Jesus, you're not just looking at an exceptional man, you're looking at the God Creator.
Wow.
So as we finish today, I just want to challenge you to commit to me to Jesus again by spending quality time in the Gospel of John. Take a little bite. For the next week, just go through the first 2 chapters or so and go deep and put it in perspective as you're meeting God for the first time. If you read the rest of the chapter 1, the first 2 men, John is sharing his own testimony the first day they met Jesus. And they realized it was the Lamb of God. As John the Baptist was saying, they start to follow him. Jesus turned to them and he asked them a profound question. He said, "What do you want? What are you seeking? What are you looking for?" I want to challenge you to think about this thing this week. Imagine you're meeting Jesus for the first time. You're curious, you're following him. He's just like, I want to get to know him. He's turning to you and he's asking you that same question. What do you want? What are you looking for? What would be your answer to Jesus?